Syria, in the face of the war of terror it is combating these days, has been calling for a solid and honest commitment from regional and international states to ensure stopping of those outlawed activities, terrorist activities, and also to get commitments from the regional countries to stop financing, arming, harboring, and the training of terrorist groups working in Syria. Since the beginning of the crisis in Syria, the Syrian government has been repeating again and again that the people and the government of Syria are under attack from terrorist groups of different agendas and identities. But the world chose to turn a blind eye and even a deaf ear to our statements. And this gives us in Syria the idea that those terrorist groups are not working on their own, but they have some international and regional sponsors behind them. Lately, this call was acknowledged by listing Jabhat al-Nusra, as you know, a terrorist group affiliated with Al-Qaeda, as a terrorist group in the Security Council Committee related to the entities and individuals associated with Al-Qaeda. What does that mean? This is a great breakthrough that we underscored at the level of the United Nations. Now, many powers, regional, Arab, and international, acknowledged, officially speaking, that in Syria there are terrorist groups working for Al-Qaeda. But this, we spared no efforts whatsoever during the crisis, all the crisis, to underscore this reality in the Security Council of the United Nations. Unfortunately, some people didn't want to acknowledge this fact. They were turning around the reality and the facts and trying to escape acknowledging and recognizing that, yes, in Syria there are terrorist groups. Lately, after the suicide bombings that took place, unfortunately, in many places in Syria, after the bloodsheds that you all know, you all saw, after the atrocities committed by the terrorist groups, everybody now is aware of the fact that, yes, guys, what we were denying for months turned to be a reality, actually, on the ground. So, yes, in Syria, there is a reality called Al-Qaeda terrorist activities. And this is now shared by what they call, I don't like this word, but this is what they call it, the international community. There is no international community. There is no international family. All this is rhetorics. But just for the sake of speaking, let us use this kind of terminology. So this is why it is an important breakthrough that we have achieved so far in the Security Council. Now the whole world has acknowledged that Syria is facing terrorism. The same thing applies to the fact that for months we were saying, guys, open your eyes, we have foreign fighters in Syria. We have mercenaries coming across the border, sponsored, trained, given haven by some countries. And the people at the beginning said, what are you talking about? This is not serious, this is blah, blah, blah. This is not true. Then finally, when the New York Times, the Washington Post, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, El Mundo, all these important international newspapers started talking about these guys, took photos of them, made interview with them, then everybody have acknowledged that, guys, what the Syrians were saying is true. And unfortunately, you know that nowadays we are facing in Syria terrorists coming from Australia up to the United States of America. And I'm sure you have heard about this American lady that was killed recently somewhere in Idlib in Syria. She is naive, she is a victim like others, brainwashed by specialist terrorists who are brainwashing the minds of teenagers, young people, putting in their mind wrong ideas about what's going on in Syria, and dragging them into this so-called jihadism against the government. It is not jihadism, of course, but this is how they call it. It's about the destruction of the country. It's about bringing us back to the Jahiliyyah time, as I said, by sacrificing the most important assets that we have built so far in Syria, which is the infrastructure, the economic development, schools, hospitals, airports, medical plants, etc., industrial plants, etc., etc., etc. Syria is witnessing a two-side situation. The first side is linked to the legitimate need for political, economic, and social reforms demanded by the public. And the second is the manipulative exploitation of those needs and demands by the allegiance of petrodollars and some international intelligence agencies, in addition to the terrorist armed groups, for objectives that are completely different from the demands of the Syrian people and their interests, and hijacking those demands to sow sedition and undermine peace and security in Syria. As a response to those lawful public demands positively, the government made serious and important steps that culminated in lifting the state of emergency, as you know, at an early stage, and drafting of a new constitution that embraces political pluralism, which was adopted by a referendum. Soon after the adoption of the constitution, parliamentary elections took place, and they were open to multiple political parties. In spite of this a promising picture I have just spoken about, we need to remind ourselves that we haven't yet reached the final stage of reforming the country. This is why the government is engaged in what we call nowadays Geneva II, the Conference of National Reconciliation, National Dialogue. We call it National Inclusive Dialogue, which means all the Syrians should be participating at this conference, in this dialogue, in order to reach a Syria, a satisfactory Syria to all the Syrians, where everybody will feel that he is proud of what he is. So the idea is to build a new Syria for new Syrians, where all of us inside Syria as well as outside of Syria will be extremely happy with what we are and with what we want to achieve. Building a solid country based on pluralism, political pluralism, full democracy, freedom, equality, social equality, and provided that we don't go towards any sectarian or confessional or religious divisions among ourselves. Otherwise, that would kill the spirit of rebuilding our new Syria. This is not theoretical or just rhetorical approach. You know that you live in the United States of America. This is a great country where you have diversity, you have pluralism, you have very important democratic mechanisms. So USA in itself is a school of thought, a political school of thought, where we can get many positive ideas. Could you figure out for a second that United States would be one day divided into 1,000 small states based on confessional or sectarian or ethnical background? Then United States of America of today wouldn't be there. Wouldn't be there. United States of America, Canada, Australia, these new countries that were built on diversity, they are successful nations because they avoided going into these abysmal internal divisions based on religion or on ethnicities.